Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the strange ship drift in the darkness of space. The vessel looked broken and beaten, its metal hull covered in burn marks and deep scratches. His crew had found it floating near the edge of human territory, sending out a weak distress signal that kept repeating the same message over and over again. "Any luck with the translation, Amy?" Jake asked his communications officer, Amy Carter. Shook her head, her fingers dancing across her console. "Still working on it, Captain. The language is unlike anything in our databases, but the signal pattern suggests multiple life forms aboard." Jake nodded and turned to his tactical officer. "Dan, what do you make of their weapon systems?" Don Foster studied his screens carefully. "Most of their weapons are offline or destroyed. Whatever happened to them, they lost badly. I'm detecting minimal power signatures and no active targeting." "Systems." The bridge fell quiet as everyone processed this information. They had been exploring this sector for 3 months, mapping star systems and looking for signs of intelligent life. This was their first real contact with an alien vessel, and it appeared to be in serious trouble. "Dr. Chun, what's your assessment?" Jake asked the ship's XNOBIOOGIS to Dr. Lisa Chun looked up from her portable scanner. "I'm reading multiple biological signatures, Captain. Different species, I think, but many of the readings are weak." "Whatever's happening over there, they need medical attention soon." Jake made his decision. "All right, people. We're going to board that ship. Don, I want a full security team. Lisa, bring your medical kit and scanning equipment. Tony, we'll need you to assess their systems." Engineer Tony Rodriguez nodded from his station. "Ready when you are, Captain." 20 minutes later, Jake led his away team through the docking tube connecting the two ships. The alien vessel's airlock was different from human designs, but Tony managed to get it open after studying the controls. The moment they stepped inside, a terrible smell hit them. "My God," Lisa whispered, covering her nose with her sleeve. The ship's interior was dark and cramped, with narrow corridors lined with what looked like holding cells. The walls were stained with things Jake didn't want to identify, and the air recycling system was barely functioning. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as they moved deeper into the vessel. "This is a slave ship," Don said quietly, his hand resting on his weapon. Jake's jaw tightened. They had heard rumors of such things existing in the galaxy, but seeing it firsthand was different. The cells were small and dirty, designed to hold as many beings as possible with no concern for comfort or dignity. They found the first survivors in the third corridor. Dozens of different alien species huddled in the cells, all in terrible condition. Some were barely conscious, while others watched the humans with fearful eyes. Lisa immediately began scanning them with her medical equipment. "Multiple species," she reported. "Some I've never seen before. They're all malnourished and many have untreated injuries. Can we help them?" Jake asked. "We have to try," Lisa replied, already moving to the nearest cell. Tony worked on the locking mechanism while Don kept watch. The aliens inside seemed confused when the cell door opened, as if they couldn't believe what was happening. Lisa spoke softly to them, using her universal translator to try to communicate. It was in the 5th corridor that they found her. The alien girl was huddled in the corner of a cell, her pale blue skin covered in dirt and bruises. Her silver hair was matted and tangled, and her large eyes held a mixture of fear and desperate hope. She wore torn clothing that might have once been white, and her thin frame showed signs of long-term malnutrition. When she saw Jake approaching, something changed in her expression. She struggled to her feet and pressed herself against the cell bars, speaking rapidly in a language the translator couldn't process immediately. "What is she saying?" Jake asked Amy, who was monitoring the translation systems from the ship. "Working on it, Captain. The language is complex, but I think she's pleading for something." The alien girl continued speaking, her voice growing more urgent. She reached through the bars toward Jake, her eyes never leaving his face. There was something in her expression that made his chest tighten with sympathy. "Translation coming through now?" Amy's voice crackled through the CUM system. What they heard next shocked everyone into silence. "Clean me and make me yours, I'll bear your strong children," the alien girl was saying. "Please, master, I will. Serve you well. I am young and healthy. I can work hard. I will do anything you ask." Jake stepped back, his face pale. "She thinks I'm here to buy her." The girl continued pleading, her voice growing more desperate as she saw Jake's reaction. She spoke of her abilities, her willingness to serve, her promise to be obedient. Every word cut through the humans like a knife. "Lisa, can you help her?" Jake asked quietly. Dr. Chun approached the cell slowly, her medical scanner in hand. The alien girl flinched at first, then held still as Lisa began her examination. The readings on the scanner made Lisa's face grow grim. "She's been badly treated," Lisa reported. "Multiple old injuries, malnutrition, and signs of psychological trauma. But her species seems to have remarkable healing abilities. With proper care, she could recover physically and mentally?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "That will take much longer. Tony had been working on the cell lock and finally got it open." The alien girl immediately fell to her knees in front of Jake, continuing her desperate pleas. She reached out to touch his boots as if this was some sort of ritual she had been trained to perform. "Please don't do that," Jake said gently, kneeling down to her level. "You don't have to kneel to anyone." The girl looked confused by his words. Through the translator, she asked, "What does Master require? How may I serve?" "You don't understand," Jake said, his voice filled with sadness. "I'm not your master. No one is your master. You're free now." The word free didn't seem to translate properly, or perhaps it had no meaning in her language. She stared at Jake with wide eyes as if he had spoken nonsense. Dan's voice came through the comm system. "Captain, we need to move. I'm detecting incoming ships on long-range sensors." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "We're taking them all with us, every survivor on this ship." "Sir, Earth Command ordered us to report any alien contact immediately," Don reminded him. "Earth Command can wait," Jake replied firmly. "We're not leaving anyone behind." As they began evacuating the survivors, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the alien girl and her desperate plea. Whatever civilization had done this to her and the others, they would have to answer for it. But first, these people needed help, safety, and time to heal. The girl stayed close to Jake during the evacuation, still not understanding that she was truly free. She kept asking what he wanted from her, what services she could provide. Each question broke his heart a little more. By the time they had transferred all the survivors to the UES Horizon, Jake had made another decision. They wouldn't be reporting this to Earth Command right away. These people needed time to recover and understand their situation before being handed over to bureaucrats who might not understand the complexity of what they had found. The alien girl was the last to be transferred. As they walked through the docking tube, she stopped and looked back at the slave ship. "Is it really over?" she asked through the translator. Jake put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Yes, it's over. You're safe now." She looked up at him with those large, expressive eyes. "What happens to me now?" "Now you heal," Jake said simply, "and you learn what it means to be free." The medical bay of the UES Horizon had never been so busy. Dr. Lisa Chun moved between the alien survivors, treating wounds and monitoring their recovery. The blue-skinned girl, who had told them her name was Kira, sat on one of the examination tables while Lisa checked her healing progress. "Your people have amazing regenerative abilities," Lisa said, watching as a cut on Kira's arm closed itself. "How is this possible?" Kira looked confused by the question. "All Zelani heal quickly. The masters like this about us. We could work longer without breaking." Lisa's expression darkened at the casual way Kira spoke about her enslavement. "Kira, you don't have masters anymore? You're free to live your own life. But who will tell me what to do?" Kira asked, genuine worry in her voice. "Who will give me food and shelter? Who will protect me?" "You will decide what to do," Lisa explained patiently. "You'll earn your own food and shelter, and you'll protect yourself." Kira stared at her as if she had spoken in a foreign language. The concept seemed impossible for her to grasp. Meanwhile, Engineer Tony Rodriguez was in the cargo bay examining pieces of technology from the slave ship. Captain Jake Morrison found him there, surrounded by strange devices and computer components. Finding anything interesting? Jake asked. Tony looked up from a crystalline structure he was studying. This is incredible, Captain. Their biotechnology is centuries ahead of ours. Look at this. He held up what looked like a living circuit board. This grows and adapts to different functions. It's not built, it's cultivated. The Zelani didn't just make technology, they grew it. Jake picked up another device, feeling its warm, almost organic surface. The question is, why don't they use it anymore? From what I can tell, they've been forbidden to practice their own science, Tony replied. The Krathan Empire has systematically destroyed their knowledge base. They're only allowed to maintain existing technology, never create new things. In the communications center, Amy Carter was working with several of the alien survivors to understand their languages and cultures. She had discovered that most of them came from different star systems, all conquered by the same enemy. The Krathan Empire controls a huge section of this galaxy, she explained to Jake when he visited her station. They've been expanding for centuries, enslaving entire species. The Zelani were apparently one of their first major conquests. How long ago was that? Jake asked. According to the survivors, about 300 years, Amy replied. Multiple generations have lived and died in slavery. Most of them don't even remember what freedom was like. Jake found this information deeply troubling. An entire species had been enslaved for so long that they had forgotten their own culture and capabilities. It explained why Kira and the others seemed so lost and confused by the concept of freedom. Dr. Chun called Jake to the medical bay later that day. She had been interviewing the survivors about their experiences and had learned some disturbing facts. The Krathan don't just use them for labor, she explained. They've been conducting breeding programs, trying to enhance certain traits while suppressing others. They've been breeding intelligence and independence out of them? Jake felt sick. That's genetic manipulation on a massive scale. It gets worse, Lisa continued. The Krathan have been studying human space for years. They're planning to expand into our territory. These ships weren't just slave transports, they were scouts. Jake's blood ran cold. Are you certain? Amy found data files in their computer systems. The Krathan have been mapping our colonies, studying our defenses, and planning invasion routes. They see humans as a potential new source of slaves. This news changed everything. Jake realized they weren't just dealing with a humanitarian crisis, but a potential threat to all of humanity. He needed to contact Earth Command immediately, but first he had to understand more about what they were facing. He found Kira in one of the guest quarters, sitting quietly by the window looking out at the stars. She had been given clean clothes and proper food, but she still seemed lost and uncertain. Kira, I need to ask you some questions about the Krathan, Jake said. Sitting down across from her, she immediately became tense and fearful. Did I do something wrong? I will work harder, I promise. You didn't do anything wrong? Jake assured her. I just need to understand our enemy better. Can you tell me about Krathan society? Kira began speaking in a quiet voice about the rigid hierarchy of the Krathan Empire. They believe themselves to be the superior species in the galaxy, destined to rule over all others. They divided other species into categories based on their usefulness as slaves. They are very strong and very cruel, Kira explained. They have powerful weapons and many ships. They take what they want and destroy what they don't need. What about your people? Jake asked. What were the Zelani like before the conquest? Kira's expression changed, becoming distant and sad. I have dreams sometimes. Dreams of green cities that grew from the ground, of people who could change their bodies to survive anywhere. But these are just dreams. The masters say the old ways were weak and foolish. Jake realized she was describing genetic memories passed down through generations but suppressed by centuries of conditioning. The Zelani had once been a highly advanced species, but their captors had systematically destroyed their culture. And knowledge, Tony's voice came through the intercom system. Captain, you need to see this. I found something in the ship's database. Jake made his way to the engineering section, where Tony had managed to access more of the alien ship's computer systems. On the screen was a star map showing Crothan territory and their expansion plans. "Look at this," Tony said, pointing to a section of the map. "These are human colonies. The Crothan have detailed information about our population centers, our defenses, even our shipping routes." Jake studied the map with growing alarm. The Crothan had been planning this invasion for a long time, and they were much better prepared than anyone on Earth realized. "There's more," Tony continued. "I found records of other species they've encountered. Some fought back successfully for a while, but they were all eventually conquered and enslaved. The Crothan have been doing this for over 1,000 years. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. This wasn't just about saving the survivors they had found. It was about protecting all of humanity from a threat they didn't even know existed. Dr. Chun joined them in the engineering section with more troubling news. "I've been studying Zelani physiology more carefully. Their healing abilities are just the beginning. They can actually modify their genetic structure consciously, adapting to different environments and threats." "That's incredible," Tony said. "With abilities like that, how were they conquered?" "They were betrayed," Kira said quietly from the doorway. She had been listening to their conversation. "The Crothan offered peace and trade. My people trusted them. When the Crothan attacked, we were not prepared for such treachery." Jake turned to face her. "Kira, do you remember anything about how your people fought back?" She closed her eyes, concentrating. "In my dreams, I see warriors who could change their bodies into living weapons. They could survive in space without protection, interface directly with their biotechnology. But these abilities were forbidden after the conquest. Anyone who tried to use them was killed." "But the knowledge might still exist," Lisa said excitedly. "In your genetic memory, it doesn't matter," Kira replied sadly. "Even if I could remember, I am weak and broken. The Masters made sure of that." Jake knelt down in front of her, looking directly into her eyes. "Kira, you are not weak. You are not broken. You are a survivor, and you are free. If there's a way to help your people remember who they really are, we need to find it." For the first time since they had rescued her, Kira showed a spark of something other than fear and submission. It was hope, fragile and uncertain, but real. "You would help us fight?" she asked. "We would help you free yourselves," Jake corrected. "But first, we need to understand what we're truly facing." As Jake looked around at his crew and the alien survivors, he realized that this was no longer just a rescue mission. It was the beginning of something much larger, a conflict that would determine the fate of multiple species and perhaps the entire galaxy. But for the first time since finding the slave ship, he felt hope that they might actually have a chance to win. The alarm klaxon echoed through the UES horizon as Captain Jake Morrison rushed to the bridge. Security Chief Don Foster was already at his station, studying the tactical display with grim concentration. "Report," Jake ordered as he took his command. "Chair, long-range sensors are picking up multiple contacts approaching our position," Don replied. "Configuration matches Crothan warships based on the database we recovered from the slave vessel." Jake felt his stomach drop. "How many?" "At least 6 ships, possibly more. They're moving in attack formation and they'll be here in less than 2 hours." Amy Carter looked up from her communications console. "Captain, I'm detecting scanning beams. They're looking for something specific." Jake didn't need to guess what they were looking for. The Crothan had come for their escaped slaves, and they wouldn't be happy to find humans interfering with their property. "Tony, how long until we can jump to hyperspace?" Jake asked. Engineer Tony Rodriguez checked his readings. "The hyperdrive is still cycling down from our last jump. We need at least 3 hours before it's ready." "We don't have 3 hours," Don said grimly. "These ships are armed with weapons we've never seen before. The slave ship's database shows they can cut through our shields like paper." Jake made a quick decision. "All hands prepare for combat. Amy, send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them about the Crothan threat and our current situation." As the crew prepared for battle, Jake went to find Kira. She was in the medical bay with Dr. Lisa Chun, who had been running more tests on the Zilani survivors. "Kira, I need to ask you about Krathan military tactics," Jake said. "How do they fight?" Kira's face went pale at the mention of combat. "The Krathan are very skilled warriors. They use fear as much as weapons. They prefer to capture enemies alive when possible, especially if they think a species might be useful as slaves. That might give us an advantage," Lisa said thoughtfully. "If they want to capture us rather than destroy us, they might hold back some of their firepower." "What about their ships?" Jake asked. "Any weaknesses?" Kira closed her eyes, trying to remember. "In my dreams, I see Zilani warriors fighting their vessels. Our biotechnology could adapt to their shields, find ways through their defenses. But that knowledge is lost." "Maybe not as lost as you think," Lisa said. She showed Jake her latest test results. "Kira's genetic structure is incredibly complex. The information is all there, it's just been suppressed by generations of conditioning." Jake felt a spark of hope. "Is there a way to reverse that suppression?" "Possibly, but it would be dangerous," Lisa warned. "The psychological trauma alone could be devastating. And we don't know what physical changes might occur." Kira looked between them, understanding dawning in her eyes. "You want me to try to remember the old ways?" "Only if you're willing," Jake said. "We won't force you to." "Do anything." Kira was quiet for a long moment, then she nodded. "If it can help save others from slavery, I must try." Dr. Chen began preparing the medical equipment while Jake returned to the bridge. The Krathan ships were getting closer, and his crew was reporting ready for battle. "Captain," Amy called out, "I'm receiving a transmission from the lead Krathan vessel." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing an alien creature that looked like a cross between a reptile and an insect. Its eyes were cold and calculating, and its voice came through the translator with a harsh, commanding tone. "Human vessel, you are in possession of stolen property belonging to the Krathan Empire. Surrender the slaves immediately, and we will allow you to leave unharmed." Jake stood up, facing the screen directly. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. The beings you call slaves are free individuals under the protection of the human government. We will not turn them over to you." The Krathan commander's expression didn't change, but Jake could sense its anger. "You do not understand the situation, human. These creatures are property, bred and trained for specific purposes. They cannot survive without guidance and control." "They seem to be surviving just fine," Jake replied firmly. "In fact, they're thriving now that they're free." "Freedom is an illusion," the Krathan said. "Order and hierarchy are the natural state of the universe. The strong rule the weak, as it has always been." Jake felt his anger rising. "That's not how humans see it. We believe all intelligent beings have the right to determine their own fate." The Krathan commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "How naive. Your species will make excellent slaves once we have studied you properly. Your emotional attachments will make you easy to control." The transmission ended, and Jake realized the Krathan had just revealed their true intentions. They weren't just here for the escaped slaves, they were here to study humanity for future conquest. "Dan, what's our tactical situation?" Jake asked. "Not good," Don replied. "They've got us outgunned and outnumbered. Our best chance is to try to outrun them, but we need time for the hyperdrive to recharge." "Then we buy time," Jake decided. Evasive maneuvers, full power to shields. The first Krathan attack came without warning. Energy beams lanced out from their ships, striking the Horizon's shields with tremendous force. The entire ship shook under the impact. "Shields down to 60%, Don reported. "They're using some kind of adaptive weapon system. Each shot is more effective than the last." Jake gripped his chair as another barrage hit them. "Return fire." The Horizon's weapons struck the lead Krathan ship, but the energy seemed to dissipate harmlessly against their shields. The enemy technology was clearly superior to anything humans had developed. "Captain," Amy called out, "Dr. Chun needs to speak with you urgently." Jake activated the intercom. Lisa, what's your status? Jake. Kira is responding to the treatment. Her genetic memories are starting to surface, but she's also undergoing physical changes. You need to see this. Another explosion rocked the ship as Jake made his way to the medical bay. When he arrived, he found Kira lying on the examination table, her body glowing with a soft blue light. Her silver hair had grown longer and seemed to move on its own, and her eyes now held a depth of knowledge that hadn't been there before. Kira, can you hear me? Jake asked. She turned to look at him, and her voice was different when she spoke. I remember now. I remember what we were before the chains. The Krathen ships have a weakness in their power distribution system. If we can overload their primary conduits, their shields will fail. How do we do that? Jake asked. Kira sat up slowly, her movements more fluid and graceful than before. Your ship's weapons fire in straight lines. Ours curved and adapted. I can modify your targeting systems, make them work like Zelani biotechnology. Is that safe? Dr. Chen asked. Nothing is safe in war, Kira replied. But it is our only chance. Jake made another quick decision. Do it? Kira moved to the medical bay's computer terminal, her hands moving over the controls with impossible speed. Jake watched in amazement as her fingers seemed to merge with the interface, creating a direct connection between her nervous system and the ship's systems. It is done, she said after several minutes. Your weapons will now adapt to their shields. But Jake, there is something else you must know. What? The Krathen have been preparing for war with your species for decades. This attack is just the beginning. They have a massive invasion fleet gathering at the edge of your territory. Hundreds of ships carrying millions of soldiers. Jake felt the blood drain from his face. How long do we have? Weeks, maybe less, Kira replied. They were waiting for the scout ships to return with detailed information about human defenses. When these ships don't return, they will know something has gone wrong. Then we need to warn Earth Command immediately, Jake said. Warning them will not be enough, Kira said sadly. The Krathen have conquered dozens of species with superior technology. They win through numbers, brutality, and their willingness to destroy entire worlds rather than lose. Another explosion shook the ship, this one closer than before. Dan's voice came through the intercom. Captain, we need those weapon modifications now. Our shields are failing. Jake looked at Kira, who nodded. Tell him to fire when ready. Jake relayed the message, and moments later he felt the ship's weapons discharge. Through the medical bay's viewscreen, he watched as the horizon's energy. Beams curved and twisted in impossible patterns, striking the Krathen ships at angles that bypassed their shields entirely. The lead Krathen vessel exploded in a brilliant flash of light, followed quickly by two more. The remaining ships began to retreat, apparently unprepared for weapons that could adapt to their defenses. It worked, Jake said in amazement. For now, Kira replied. But they will analyze what happened and develop countermeasures. The Krathen learned quickly from their defeats. Jake activated the ship's intercom. All hands, prepare for immediate departure. Tony, I need that hyperdrive online now. 2 more minutes, Captain, came the reply. We may not have 2 minutes, Don reported. More ships are approaching on long-range sensors. Jake looked at Kira, who was still connected to the ship's systems. Can you give us any other advantages? I can do more than that, she said. I can help you contact other freed slaves throughout the galaxy. There are resistance movements on many worlds, waiting for a chance to fight back. If we can unite them, with human military technology, we might have a chance. The hidden research station appeared on the viewscreen like a beacon of hope in the darkness of space. Captain Jake Morrison had made the difficult decision to ignore his orders from Earth Command and bring the alien survivors here instead of turning them over to the authorities. Dr. Peter Grant's facility was officially classified as a deep space research outpost, but Jake knew it was really a place where humanity's most advanced scientific work took place away from political interference. UES Horizon, this is Research Station Alpha. We've been expecting you, came Dr. Grant's voice through the communications system. Good to hear from you, Peter, Jake replied. We have a situation that requires your expertise. So I've heard from the coded messages you've been sending. Dock at Bay 7. I'll have my team ready to receive your guests. As the horizon approached the station, Kira stood beside Jake on the bridge, watching their destination grow larger. She had changed dramatically since her awakening during the battle with the Krathan ships. Her movements were more confident. Her eyes held ancient wisdom, and her blue skin seemed to glow with inner energy. "Will your people accept us here?" she asked. "Dr. Grant is different from most humans," Jake explained. "He believes in doing what's right, regardless of what politicians think about it." Tony Rodriguez was monitoring the docking procedure when he noticed something unusual. "Captain, the station's AI systems are trying to communicate with Kira directly." Kira tilted her head, as if listening to something only she could hear. "The machine minds want to understand how I interface with technology. They are curious about Zelani biotechnology. Is it safe to let them connect?" Dr. Lisa Chun asked. "I believe so," Kira replied. "Human artificial intelligence seems different from Krathan systems. There's kindness in their programming, not just efficiency." Jake watched as streams of data began flowing between Kira and the station's computers. Her eyes glowed brighter as the connection strengthened, and the expression on her face suggested she was experiencing something wonderful. "They are teaching me about human ethics and philosophy," she said in amazement. "Your machines are programmed to value individual freedom and dignity. This is remarkable." Dr. Grant met them at the docking bay with a team of scientists and medical personnel. He was a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes, the sort of person who dedicated his life to making the universe a better place. "Captain Morrison, welcome to Alpha Station," he said, shaking Jake's hand. "And you must be Kira. Your genetic scans are absolutely fascinating." Kira looked uncertain about how to respond to his friendly manner. "Are you the master of this place?" "I prefer to think of myself as a facilitator," Dr. Grant replied with a gentle smile. "Here, everyone works together as equals. No one owns anyone else." Over the next several hours, Dr. Grant's team worked with the alien survivors to help them understand their new situation. The station's AI systems, programmed with advanced psychological treatment protocols, began helping the former slaves adjust to the concept of freedom. Meanwhile, Jake met with Dr. Grant in his private office to discuss the larger situation. "The Krathan invasion fleet is real," Jake explained, showing Grant the data they had recovered. "We're looking at hundreds of ships and millions of soldiers. Earth's defenses won't be enough to stop them." Dr. Grant studied the information carefully. "What about the Galactic Trade Council? Surely they would intervene to prevent such aggression." According to our intelligence, the Council has been compromised," Jake replied. "They've been allowing the slave trade to continue because it's profitable for member species. They won't help us." "Then we'll have to help ourselves," Grant said firmly. "What do you need from us?" "Time and resources to awaken more Zelani," Jake answered. "Kira believes their biotechnology could give us an edge against Krathan weapons. But we need more of her people to remember their true capabilities." Dr. Grant activated his computer terminal. "Show me what you've learned about the awakening process." Dr. Chun joined them and explained her research. "The Zelani genetic memory is incredibly complex. Each individual carries the accumulated knowledge of their entire species, but centuries of conditioning have suppressed access to it. The process of awakening is dangerous and painful, but the results are extraordinary." "How many Zelani survivors do we have?" Grant asked. 43 individuals from various ships," Chun replied. "But only about half are healthy enough to attempt the awakening procedure." "And they would volunteer for this?" Jake thought about his conversations with the survivors. "Most of them are eager to help once they understand what's at stake. The idea of preventing other species from suffering as they did is very powerful." "Motivation," Dr. Grant made his decision. "We'll do whatever it takes. My team will work with Dr. Chun to refine the awakening process and make it as safe as possible." 3 days later, the first group of volunteers underwent the awakening procedure. Jake watched through the medical bay's observation window as 5 Zelani lay on treatment tables, their bodies glowing with the same blue light he had seen in Kira. The process was difficult to watch. The volunteers writhed in pain as suppressed memories flooded back into their consciousness. Some cried out in languages that hadn't been spoken for centuries. Others seemed to be reliving traumatic experiences from their species' past. But when it was over, the change was remarkable. The awakened Zelani moved with new purpose and confidence. Their eyes held the same ancient wisdom that Jake had seen in Kira, and they spoke of technologies and abilities that seemed almost magical. "We remember the living ships," said one of the newly awakened, a male named Zara. "Vessels that could grow and adapt, heal their own wounds, and become stronger through battle." "We remember the warrior transformations," added another, a female called Vera. "Bodies that could survive in the vacuum of space, interface directly with any technology, and adapt to any environment." Kira worked with the awakened Zelani to begin rebuilding their lost knowledge. They started small, growing simple biotechnological devices that could enhance human equipment. A living circuit that made computers faster and more intuitive. Organic armor that could stop energy weapons and heal minor injuries. Seeds that could grow into communication networks spanning entire star systems. Tony Rodriguez was like a child in a candy store, studying every piece of Zelani biotechnology with fascination. "This changes everything," he told Jake excitedly. "With this technology, we could build ships that repair themselves, weapons that adapt to any defense, even terraform planets in decades instead of centuries." But Amy Carter brought disturbing news from her monitoring stations. "Captain, I'm detecting increased Krathan activity throughout this sector. Their patrol ships are searching every system, looking for something." "They're looking for us," Kira sighed quietly. "The ships we destroyed had time to send data back to the main fleet. The Krathan know humans have interfered with their operations." Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders again. "How long do we have?" "Not long," Kira replied. "The Krathan will want to eliminate the threat quickly before we can spread knowledge of their plans to other human worlds." Dr. Grant called an emergency meeting in the station's main conference room. Representatives from all departments gathered to discuss their options. "We have two choices," Grant began. "We can try to hide and hope the Krathan don't find us, or we can take the fight to them." "We can't hide," Jake said firmly. "They have our ship's sensor signature, and they know we were in this area. It's only a matter of time before they locate the station." "Then we fight," Zara said, speaking for the awakened Zelani. "We have remembered enough to begin growing weapons and ships. Give us time, and we can build a fleet that will surprise the Krathan." "How much time?" Grant asked. "Weeks, perhaps less," Vera replied. "Zelani biotechnology grows quickly when properly nurtured." Amy looked up from her communications console. "I'm receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. They're demanding an immediate response to their previous orders." Jake made another difficult decision. "Tell them we've encountered technical difficulties and are making repairs. Buy us as much time as possible." "Sir, eventually they'll send ships to investigate," Amy warned. "I know," Jake replied. "But by then, hopefully we'll have something to show them that will make them understand the threat we're facing." Dr. Chun had been reviewing the medical data from the awakening procedures. "Jake, there's something else we need to consider. The awakening process seems to be accelerating. With each group, the Zelani are remembering things faster and more completely." "Is that good or bad?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure," Chun admitted. "It's as if their genetic memory is responding to the presence of more awakened individuals. They're sharing knowledge at a subconscious level." Kira confirmed this observation. "We are becoming what we once were, but also something new. The combination of human technology and Zelani abilities is creating possibilities that neither species could achieve alone." Jake looked around the room at the mixed group of humans and aliens working together. Despite the danger they faced, he felt hopeful. This was exactly what humanity was meant to do, he realized. Not conquer or dominate, but cooperate and build something better together. "All right, people," he said. "We have work to do. Let's ship back." The war room aboard Research Station Alpha buzzed with activity as Captain Jake Morrison studied the holographic display showing Krathen positions throughout the sector. 2 weeks had passed since the awakening program began, and now they had over 30 fully awakened Zelani working alongside human crews to prepare for the coming battle. The first wave of liberation ships is ready for deployment, reported Tony Rodriguez, his voice filled with excitement about the hybrid technology they had created. We have 12 vessels that combine human engineering with Zelani biotechnology. Dr. Peter Grant examined the tactical projections. Our intelligence suggests the Krathen have slave facilities on 15 different worlds in this sector. If we can coordinate simultaneous strikes, we might catch them off guard. Kira stood beside Jake, her appearance now dramatically different from the frightened girl they had rescued weeks ago. Her silver hair flowed like liquid metal, her blue skin glowed with inner energy, and her eyes held the accumulated wisdom of her entire species. More importantly, she carried herself with the confidence of a true leader. The awakened ones are ready, she announced. We have remembered enough of our warrior heritage to make the Krathen pay for their centuries of cruelty. Jake nodded, activated the communication system. All ship commanders, this is Captain Morrison. Operation Liberation begins in 1 hour. Remember, our primary goal is to rescue enslaved populations and gather intelligence on Krathen military capabilities. The response came back from 12 different vessels, each one a unique fusion of human and Zelani technology. The ships themselves seemed almost alive, their hulls rippling with organic patterns that could adapt and change based on combat conditions. Dr. Lisa Chun's voice came through the medical bay intercom. Jake, I want to remind you that many of the slaves we encounter may be in the same psychological condition as our original survivors. They won't understand that rescue is possible. Understood, Jake replied. We'll have awakened Zelani on each ship to help with communication and cultural translation. Security Chief Don Foster checked his tactical displays one final time. Captain, our hybrid weapon systems are showing green across the board. The combination of human targeting computers and Zelani adaptive technology should give us a significant advantage. Jake looked around the war room at the mixed group of humans and aliens working together. A few weeks ago, this would have been impossible to imagine. Now it felt like the most natural thing in the world. All ships begin deployment. Jake ordered. The Liberation Fleet spread out across the sector, each ship heading toward a different Krathen facility. Jake commanded the lead vessel, a hybrid cruiser they had named the Freedom's Dawn. Kira served as his tactical advisor, her enhanced abilities allowing her to interface directly with the ship's living systems. Their first target was a mining operation on a barren moon where hundreds of different alien species were forced to extract rare minerals for the Krathen war machine. As they approached the facility, Jake could see the massive industrial complex sprawling across the lunar surface. Detecting multiple guard ships in orbit, reported Amy Carter from her communications station. They're challenging our approach. Standard response, Jake ordered. Tell them we're conducting a routine inspection on behalf of the Galactic Trade Council. The lie worked long enough for them to get within weapons range. When the Krathen guards realized they were facing unknown technology, it was too late for them to mount an effective defense. Weapons free, Jake commanded. The Freedom's Dawn's organic weapon systems came alive, firing energy streams that curved and twisted through space like living creatures. The Krathen ships tried to adapt their shields, but the Zelani biotechnology evolved faster than their defenses could respond. Within minutes, the orbital guards were destroyed, and Jake's team was making their way to the surface. The landing party consisted of humans and awakened Zelani working together, their combined abilities making them incredibly effective. The mining facility was a nightmare of suffering and exploitation. Thousands of beings from dozens of different species labored in terrible conditions, their bodies broken by years of forced work. Many were so weak they could barely stand, while others had given up hope entirely. This is worse than the slave ships, Don said quietly as they moved through the facility. Kira and the other awakened Zelani spread out through the complex. using their enhanced abilities to communicate with the various enslaved species. Many of the prisoners couldn't believe that rescue was actually possible. "We are free beings," Kira announced through her universal translator. "We have come to take you away from this place. You will never be slaves again." The response was mixed. Some prisoners wept with joy, while others cowered in fear, afraid that this was some sort of trap. The psychological damage done by years of slavery would take time to heal. Jake coordinated the evacuation while Tony worked to download data from the facility's computer systems. The information they gathered revealed the true scope of the Krathen Empire's operations. "Jake, you need to see this," Tony called out. "They have detailed plans for the invasion of human space. The attack fleet is already moving toward our territory." Jake felt his blood run cold as he studied the tactical data. Hundreds of Krathen warships were converging on Earth's outer colonies, preparing for a massive assault that would begin within days. "How many people are they planning to enslave?" Jake asked. "All of them," Tony replied grimly. "Every human in the target systems, men, women, children. They're planning to process entire populations." Jake activated his communicator to contact the other liberation teams. "All units report status." One by one, the other ship commanders reported successful missions. 12 Krathen facilities had been destroyed or captured, and thousands of enslaved beings had been freed. But more importantly, they had gathered intelligence that revealed the full extent of the threat facing humanity. Dr. Grant's voice came through from the research station. "Jake, we're receiving reports from Earth Command. Krathen scouts have been detected near several human colonies. The invasion has begun." Jake made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "All ships, set course for Earth space. It's time to warn our people and help them prepare for war." The journey back to human territory took 2 days, during which Jake worked with Kira and the other awakened Zelani to plan their strategy. They had proven that hybrid human-Zelani technology could defeat Krathen forces, but now they needed to convince Earth's military leaders to embrace this new alliance. "Your people may not trust us at first," Kira warned. "We look alien, and our technology seems like magic to those who don't understand it." "Then we'll have to prove ourselves in battle," Jake replied. "Nothing convinces people like results." When they arrived at Earth's outer defense perimeter, they found chaos. Krathen advanced scouts were already engaging human patrol ships, and the news of alien invasion was spreading panic throughout the colonies. Admiral Sandra Hayes, commanding the defense fleet from her flagship, initially refused to believe Jake's reports about the scale of the threat. "Captain Morrison, you were ordered to report alien contact immediately," she said sternly during their video conference. "Instead, you disappeared for weeks, and now you return with wild stories about galactic empires and hybrid technology." "Admiral, with respect, I have proof," Jake replied. He transmitted the data they had gathered from the Krathen facilities. The invasion fleet numbers in the hundreds. "Our current defenses won't be enough." Admiral Hayes studied the intelligence reports, her expression growing more grim with each page. "Even if this is accurate, what do you propose we do about it?" "Allow the awakened Zelani to help upgrade our ships and weapons," Jake answered. "Their biotechnology can level the playing field." "You're asking me to trust alien technology that we don't understand." "I'm asking you to trust allies who have already proven themselves in battle," Jake corrected. "Admiral, we've seen what the Krathen do to conquered species. Is that the future you want for humanity?" Before Admiral Hayes could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the fleet. The main Krathen invasion force had arrived at the edge of the system, their massive ships blocking out stars as they approached. "Admiral, we have over 300 enemy vessels on long-range sensors," reported her tactical officer. "They're moving in attack formation." Admiral Hayes looked at the tactical display, then back at Jake. "Captain Morrison, how quickly can your Zelani friends upgrade our weapons?" "Give them direct access to your ship's systems and they can begin immediately," Jake replied. "Do it," Hayes ordered. Across the human fleet, awakened Zelani began interfacing with ship systems, their enhanced abilities allowing them to rapidly modify weapons and defenses. The process was visible to human crews as organic patterns spread across their vessels, transforming familiar technology into something new and powerful. The first clash between the combined human-Zelani fleet and the Krathan invasion force was like nothing anyone had ever witnessed. Human tactical precision combined with Zelani adaptive technology created weapons that could think and evolve during battle. Krathan ships that had dominated the galaxy for centuries found themselves outmatched by vessels that grew stronger with each